Now, I have spent most of my life living in the countryside. For me, the way I'm set up personally, the city has nothing left in it that is outside of humankind's influence. I like the surprise of not knowing what's going to come rumbling through the woods every once in a while. And so what do we need in this life? In the fields and the trees, we have creation speaking to us, and that speaks to me. That's God's voice. He gets a voice in the midst of the chaos and confusion that my life is sometimes. So this goes back a long way into the Bible story. Abraham, who was from a long time ago, he was a very wealthy man. He obeyed God and moved as an old man to a land that God showed him. And he lived out in his life in tents, as the book of Hebrews tells us. Lived out his life in tents, as did his son and his grandsons and great-grandsons, waiting for a city that was made by God, it says. Now we who are followers of Jesus, Messiah Jesus, live inside the fulfillment of that great blessing and that promise that was poured out because of Abraham's faith. And the ultimate part of that blessing and that promise is Jesus himself. He was the promised seed of Abraham. So we also live looking forward. I want to be a city dweller someday, but I want to live in a city that God himself has built. So I'm part of this group of crazy optimists who thinks that God is good and that he keeps his promises. And so we spend our lives and we live in such a way that we're standing on the shoulders of great ones from the past, like Abraham, who believed God and obeyed God. And so we ask ourselves questions like, well, what does my life mean? What gives my life meaning? Why am I such a crazy optimist? Abraham lives out his life in tents, waiting for promises that seem impossible, but he believes God. And so the fulfillment of those promises that he sees today as a heavenly citizen, those fulfillments have filled the whole earth with God's truth and God's light and God's people. So what hopes can we entrust to God as we live out our lives that we're not going to see in this life perhaps? And how does it affect the way we live? Well, we have this discussion among ourselves during the week, but we all get together to talk about this on Sunday mornings, 10:30, in our community of crazy optimists who are following Jesus at the Woodstock Evangelical Covenant Church. So I can't wait to see you either online or in the house at the Woodstock Covenant Church, 10:30 Sunday morning, and we'll be living out our life as foreigners. Even though we're in the land we were born, living out our life as foreigners, looking for that city that's made by God himself. See you this Sunday.